Hello, hello. We are back again. This is, I believe, going to end up being part 8 of our Making Renders series. It's going to be a shorter part for you guys, maybe the longest part for me. What I'm going to be doing today is just kind of building up some of these building facades and stuff like that, kind of along the street and just making the urban environment more of an urban environment. So you're gonna see me going through. I'll probably do some lighting, some street lights, putting some of the just some basic buildings together, some props, some decoration. You're gonna probably see a few cuts. This might get split into a couple of days. I'm not really sure. It's gonna all be sped up. This is probably going to be the only live commentary part of this video. The rest of this is just going to be, you're just going to see me placing stuff down. I think most people probably know how to place some static meshes and place blueprints and stuff in a level at this point. And if you're not sure how to do that, I would advise you maybe go back to the start of the tutorial. And just kind of watch through, placing characters and stuff down. This is all, I mean, kind of your day one stuff you take and you drag stuff in, things like that. If I want a wall, grab a wall, drag the wall in, take another wall, rotate that, and start building a house, or a storefront or whatever. So yeah, you're just going to see that process. You'll see me kind of going through that, and it's going to be super sped up, and it'll be short, and I'll probably be commenting in post, just with some tips and tricks and stuff like that I've found. But yeah, so you guys enjoy that, and we'll see you guys. Well, you're going to hear from me in just a minute, but we'll see you guys when this is all said and done. Appreciate you. Okay, so it is the next day, and you're hearing from me in post, just commenting over all this stuff going on screen here. So a few different things you'll see me doing. Just scattering some lighting throughout the level, different street lamps and stuff like that. All just kind of setting the scene. Few different ways you can do that. You see me in here just really quickly going through, placing them manually, rotating them around. Nothing wrong with doing it that way. Sometimes it's just easiest. You see a lot of people use like PCG, that sort of thing for that, which you can do, but for a smaller environment like this, it's easier, or it was easier for me to just place them manually. Made a lot of use of the modeling tools, building this environment out, and that's part of the challenge of keeping everything free. So you'll see me jump in here in a second, with the modeling tools and kind of blocking some stuff out, just some simple shops and things like that. Right now you can see me just kind of setting up a little simple no parking sign, little blueprint. So it's all pretty basic, simple stuff. Going back into the landscape splines, you see me setting this up now for the sidewalk. So you can have as many splines as you'd like I said. So it's nothing that you're limited by. I think I do another landscape spline actually for another sidewalk as well. And you can just go in and adjust them to your preference. It's really easy to just kind of quickly get some paths and things like that set up. So not a ton going on, but you're just seeing me make more use of that modeling tool there just for a minute, then kind of deciding against it, and that'll happen for you as well. Just play around with different things. Sometimes things might not always kind of work out the way you anticipated, and that's fine. Just experiment, and eventually, once you get a result that you're happy with, move forward with that. So See a few pauses like this kind of throughout the video, just me browsing through the Fab Marketplace for some extra assets. And like I said before, all those will be linked in the description as well for you guys. So if you want to grab any of them for yourself, go ahead. Actually, big shout out to this Decogon creator on Fab. I actually use a lot of his assets and some of my other projects as well. I didn't even realize he has a lot of really good. I probably shouldn't say he, but whoever the person is, they have a lot of really good free assets, some paid ones as well that I've used in the past. It's all pretty high quality stuff, so really highly recommend that creator, even just for their free assets. Really good stuff. I did lose a little bit of footage there, so you're seeing me as I'm kind of all of a sudden there was just this dock and the staircase. Those just got built with the modeling tool. It's literally, go to the modeling tool. There's an option for stairs. You can adjust the parameters for the stairs, and then the dock itself is literally just a cube with that concrete texture applied. And then you just see me kind of messing with the texture on some of these park benches I'm throwing on here. So just play around with things. You can get a lot of different looks out of the same asset just by swapping some materials out and different things like that. So, but yeah, it's basically just speed running through, kind of setting everything up here. So, pretty simple stuff. And a few different packs got added. You've got some construction props, some city props, different things like that. I think those, like Porta-Johns, were from a construction pack of assets, basically. So sometimes, you can go out and look for different packs for things that may not necessarily be 100% relevant to what you're trying to do. Like in that case, those came out of a construction scene pack, and you can use them for other things. And then here you're just seeing me kind of block out those shops I mentioned earlier. And again, just with the modeling tool, and then I'll go in, and once I kind of have the basic shape that I want, what I'm looking for, I kind of just merge all those together and just kind of have the basic shop shape. All as one static mesh. And then you'll see me go through and actually throw that into a blueprint. And one of the nice things with that particular city props pack is it's basically, there's a lot of different materials for the same mesh. So you'll see that kind of like overhead sign as well as kind of the signs on the sides of the little shops. Just kind of swapping materials and changing colors and things like that. And you can actually get a decent variety all out of the same blueprint pretty quickly. So that's kind of what I opted for here. And even at this point, I think we were a couple hours in. So I was kind of trying to just move through it. But you'll see me kind of just setting this blueprint up. And then as I duplicate it across and, have multiple different little shops, you just see me kind of setting some materials invisible. So like some of those signs will just be completely hidden in game. And then others, times I'm just changing the material to make it a different sign, but the same mesh. So that's a technique you can use. Not necessarily the most optimized thing, because you're still, having the draw calls for those hidden, and even though they're invisible in game, it's still getting rendered out by the engine. So it's not necessarily the most optimized thing, but for little meshes like that, without a really high poly count, it's completely fine. You want to avoid doing stuff like that with really intricate meshes. So like for characters or like, like foliage, that kind of stuff with a large amount of just polys and things like that. Try to avoid that when you can. This is just a little quick and dirty, fast, prototype to level and kind of get it done. But, not the best for optimization reasons. Just placing down, some different park benches and stuff. There's really not a whole ton to talk about for this part of the tutorial, but again, just speeding through it. If anything in particular comes back up, I will chime back in if there's anything I want to point out. So, but yeah, just enjoy what's going on screen. And again, any questions, let me know. So this part here is actually a little bit important. You saw me kind of messing around with some of those modular parts. And at this point, I was kind of tired. I was kind of ready to be done. So wasn't really liking how those were looking. I decided that was taking a bit longer than I wanted. So what you're seeing here actually is I went through and on the Fab Marketplace found a free asset as a big old group of buildings. And a lot of times, especially on the free assets, you'll see that where they just kind of throw all the meshes in as just one huge mesh like that. So you see me dragging that in and out and stuff. And that's just in the modeling mode, going in with polycut and just cutting out the meshes that I don't need, or the parts of the mesh, I should say, that I don't need. So I can actually just isolate, individual buildings and stuff like that. And again, not great for optimization because it is still, even though the mesh isn't there, you still have all those material slots. So just make sure that, whatever materials you're cutting out, so like on those extra buildings and stuff, since they aren't there anymore, if you're doing this for gameplay, you'd want to go back in and in those material slots, just make it so there's no material in there. So it's not trying to render material on stuff that doesn't exist. Just a little performance trick there. And then I'm in now, just same thing, modeling tool. Been using that this whole entire process, but going through and just modeled out really quickly that little asphalt parking lot. And then you're seeing me now just go through with few different static meshes. Just I'm gonna end up doing fencing, and then using some decal textures. I was trying to do them with meshes. You'll see in a second. For the parking lines, I was trying to make them in with meshes, and then just throwing the material on top. And for whatever reason, that Megascan material just was not liking that one bit. It was supposed to be just one solid painted white line, and for some reason throwing it onto a mesh kept breaking it up. So what I ended up opting for instead, and this is something you can do as well, if you just need, quickly paint something onto, a mesh or a landscape or whatever, making use of decal materials. And so you'll see me fiddling with this quite a bit, and then ultimately just deciding to go with a decal material instead. And it just made it much, much simpler in the end. So that's something to look into as well. You can also apply those onto characters, skeletal meshes, things like that. If a lot of people will do that for things like tattoos, different things like that. Some people will even cheap technique for blood splatter, that kind of stuff. If you're, building like a more violent type of game, you want some of those effects to stay on a character. You can use it for that when you're in your, making your character. You just apply the decal texture, attach it to the skeleton, So you want it on the face, you would attach it to the head, and then just adjust it till it looks good. And then you just hide it, you'd set it to something invisible. And then when you need it to appear in the game, you just make an event to call it to make it appear. So pretty versatile with the decal materials. And then here I'm just adding some more foliage, building up kind of that little berm, and then just kind of trying to fill in some of the more empty space that I didn't end up using, with a little bit more landscaping and that sort of thing. So we're coming up towards the end here. I think I'm about done. A couple more buildings I think I ended up adding, and then you'll see too, kept having a kind of a funny issue with and you'll run into this, with Unreal, just different bugs and things, but I kept adding in static meshes, and every time I would add in a new static mesh, it was deleting the last one I had just placed. And so that was a fun issue. It happened to me several times. So I actually ended up, I kept placing one in and then loading a different level and then placing another one in and then loading a different level. And that seemed to be the only way I was able to get some of these static meshes to stay for some reason. I'm not sure why that was going on. That was a weird bug I was running into, but you'll run into that sometimes. I think that was Unreal's way of telling me it was time to wrap it up, so to speak. But anyways, yeah, just building this out a little bit more. Hopefully you enjoyed kind of watching this, and if you do have any questions or anything like that, as always, let me know. I think there's going to be one more little segment from me here at the end that I went in yesterday and just kind of showed some of the assets I use. So yeah, you'll hear from me again in just a second. Hello. It is kind of late. I'm actually recording this part after the rest of the environment got done. Usually do this at the beginning of the video. Kind of forgot this time around. Just a couple quick shout outs. And as always, links to all these assets will be in the description. But we got the urban environment done. So you'll see the process. I recorded all of it. I did unfortunately lose a bit of footage. So I'll go over that in the post, it'll actually be before this for you guys, but, anyways, so a couple additional assets, picnic table. We have this modular building set. I didn't really end up using too much from it, if anything. It just didn't quite match the theme, and I found I was running into, it was just taking a lot longer than I'd like to set up. This is something I didn't, want to take weeks doing, so this is just, I kind of just threw it together quickly. So what we did anyways, we ended up mostly pulling for like prefab buildings from this asset, and you'll see me going through when I'm actually building out the level. A lot of times what you'll run into with these, especially on the free assets, these buildings are just one mesh, so you'll see me kind of going through and basically just poly cutting, just cutting out, a couple buildings, individual buildings, and then just placing those. So it's a really easy fix. We made a lot of use of the modeling tool. You probably have already seen that. And a lot of the heavy lifting was the city street props pack, as well as this modern street props pack. So there'll be links to those in the description as well. Like I said, and then did use some of the vehicles as well. So just shout outs to all those assets. And like I said, I'll be sure to link everything that I used in the description down below. So if you want to grab it for yourself, like I said, all free assets. It was kind of the bane of my existence. I had to make a lot more use of the modeling tool this time around, but that's okay. So yeah, hopefully you learned something and enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, like I said, reach out to me. Really simple stuff here. It's all kind of beginner things. Yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed the video, and the next part's going to be actually getting into making the renders, going into cinema camera actors and all that stuff, actually making the whole point of this, making the renders, pictures, that kind of stuff, and posing, that kind of thing. We may still do a little bit of tweaking to the environment, you know, specific props and things like that. You know, as we're doing the renders, we may add or, you know, kind of hide some stuff if it doesn't quite look good. But hopefully this just kind of covered, you know, A to Z. Just quickly, you know, building an environment. I think start to finish right now, I'm probably sitting around 8 or 9 hours of time throwing all this together. Obviously, it took a little longer because I'm explaining things as I'm going along, but that kind of wraps up this whole section of the tutorial. And then from here, like I said, just on to actually doing the renders. So we'll see you guys for that part, and I'm sure that's probably what most of you are waiting on. So we'll see you then.